All right, guys. My name is Paul Irish, and I am a developer advocate on the Chrome team. I want to talk a little bit about tooling. And so this is about building web apps, finding the right software to make your process of building web apps fun, awesome, enjoyable, less stressful, more productive, things like that. Now, I'm going to talk a little bit about kind of how we're building web apps today and how I think we can build them in the future. But for a second, I want to take a few steps back and walk back a few years, back to 2006, because this is the year that I wrote like my first website where I was like doing all the right things when it came to web standards, and I felt so good about the way that I was doing it. And so I was here and I did something probably like this, and I was doing a little bit of this, and then this, and then that, and then that, and then that, and then that. Let's see if I can. This is like typical, right? Ooh. There we go. Nice. Cool. All right. I'm really glad that we don't have to type that out anymore. That's really nice. But this is like, and so what I actually did is when I made this site, and it turned out to be really nice, I did the whole thing in Notepad. And I think, yeah, exactly. Like, I think we consider it a little funny now that I would write like pretty significant site in Notepad, but at the time I was like, I am a craftsman over my markup, and I will be one with it, and the closest that I can be with it is to be in notepad.exe. And so I just used that. And it just seems kind of silly. I thought I was like so close to it, but really it's not really craftsmanship. Like that was handcraft. That was like the web development equivalent to whittling a stick. And handcraft is more about choosing tools well, finding the right tools to get the job done and assist you. And I've noticed this too. I started at Google about 2 years ago, and looking around when you're surrounded by really smart people, and you notice what like the really productive developers do. And they have tools that they use, they know them really well, and they embrace them. And so I kind of like noticed that there was a theme going on here. And so I want to talk a little about tools, and this is not about, Google developer tools. This is about, you don't have to be building the next Gmail for this kind of stuff to apply to you. It's for everyone. So a lot of people have been noticing this recently. And I just want to think about, remember when probably there was a point at which you didn't actually use version control, and you might have been on a team, and you remember like, hey, actually, I'm going to be editing index.html. Can you hold out just for a second? I'm going to make, okay, you can do it now. Like SourceSafe had similar, it was like annoying. But version control made it a lot bit better. And we could focus on development, not tiresome debugging when you don't want to be doing it. And then how much time have you lost when you actually had a colon where you're supposed to have a semicolon or an extra comma at the end of your literal object in JavaScript, and you're just like, ugh. There's also other funny things. I'm not going to click to it. It's a little not safe for work. Commit logs from last night, pulling in logs from GitHub where people happen to use expletives because they're a bit frustrated. People that are making silly mistakes that they probably don't need to. So we're seeing a little bit of shift towards looking at tools assisting us. And Rebecca Murphy did a great post about this sort of shift recently, and she said, we're seeing us focus from valuing trivia to valuing tools. And a similar thing was said a little bit ago by Michael Lopp, who's known by Rands online. He's an engineering manager at Apple. He said, there's a short list of tools that you must be rabid about. Rabid, foaming at the mouth crazy. And he went on to talk about how he used his editor, his terminal, and like what made him productive. And I think this is important to really identify what you feel great about. And so I've done a little bit of research and talks about this, and there's a lot of tools. When I just say tools, it like covers a lot of things. So there's a quick way of trying to visualize from start to end what are all the tools that I use from the birth of a project to deploying it out to the world. And we're going to kind of walk through a little bit of this, but focusing on your developer workflow. So we're going to walk through the current workflow for web app developers. And the way that we're going to start this off is in your shell. In your shell, I'll bring mine up right now. Hey, buddy. Cool. The first thing is I think you should make it sexy. Feel good about this terminal that you're typing into. There's a really great community on GitHub around dot files, which is just configuration files for your bash prompt or your ZSH prompt, other application configurations. And so I encourage you to go check that out, see what other people are doing, and customize your shell and share your own customizations with other people. There's a few favorites that I have. One of them is a directory jumper called Z. So I'll show that now. I can jump to any folder that I've been in somewhat recently. I'll jump over to the Modernizer project. I can just type any portion of that word, hit Z. We jump right into that. Now we'll actually go over to the HTML5 please project. Just type in Z please. And we jump over into that folder. Nice and easy. Cool. Now, moving on past my shell. Actually, first, the server alias. So this is pretty cool. This alias, this is just a bit of bash. We are just firing up a simple web server, no big deal. But at the same time, we're opening up a browser tab. Configurable port if we want, but we'll default it to 8000 if not. So I'll do that now. Just type in server, boom, cool. And refresh. Yeah, cool, awesome, good. So we have my local instance of HTML5 please running right here. Now, coming back, the next part is the editor. And the editor, I mean, you might have your own preferences, and that's fine, but the key to a good editor is that it's an onion application, which is to say that there's a nice learning curve where you can kind of peel back the layers of functionality and kind of grow from novice to expert at a very easy pace. So the other thing with an editor is that more than any other tool, this is where your investment in time and learning it well and learning the features inside of it will pay off huge dividends. So I'll bring up mine right now. Let's see, Subl dot. I'm actually using Sublime Text, and we'll bring this up. And I'll move it over here, and we're going to bring up, actually, my script for this file. Whoops. Nice. Cool. Now, one of the things that I've noticed developing recently is that I kind of like learn new tricks. I like some of the features in this editor. And one of the things that I added to my editor workflow recently was having linting. And linting, code linting, built in right live. And so I'll show you what I mean right now. So here I have these 3 variable declarations. It's cool. Maybe, so I actually didn't write these 3 lines, but maybe I'm going to refactor them a little bit. Select them. I will align their equals. It's nice. Good thing. I'll do a multi-line select. Move that over. That's cool. And then I'll go over and fix that. And good. Now, one of the things that it's helping me out with right here is that I'm actually, I have this white box around here. And this is a linter plugin that's running inside Sublime. And it's telling me I have a problem. Now, way down at the bottom, it says H2 is not defined. And I'm like, but you're right here with the, And what is the problem in this right here? Yes, yes. My semicolon should be a comma, and I should be stringing my variable declarations. Ooh, that's so nice. Okay, thank you. Yes. Yeah. It's cool. All right. So yeah, I got live feedback, and it was able to save me from an implied global variable, which we don't want. I probably wouldn't have caught that. It wouldn't have been a syntax error when I refreshed the page, but I'm getting it caught right here immediately. So I like this. And in fact, I think kind of code linting is your first unit test. Typically, the first unit test that you might write is something like, is the global there? Like, does this thing exist? And even before that, you get feedback on if it's available. And in JavaScript, this is particularly important. Some of the languages have rich static analysis features. JavaScript, it's a little hairy, that sort of thing. But we have code linting, and I'm using JS hint right here. And I can get immediate feedback on, is my code syntactically sound? And is there anything that I should watch out for, like what we just saw? And so one of the parts of this is that I really like getting the real-time feedback. If you've seen the talk by Brett Victor, Inventing on Principle, one of the things that he talks about is having immediate feedback between your code and your results and getting that feedback. And so I'm going to show a little bit of kind of what kind of tools provide this sort of workflow these days. So I'll move this back over here, and I'll open up the style folder, or the style sheet that we have. So I think it's style.scss. So we're using Sass and Compass, and I'm going to just jump down to the H1. So what I'm going to do is just make an edit in the text shadow. And we'll just change this part of the text shadow for this H1 right here up to 41 pixels and save it. Now, nothing happens. I refresh the page. OK, cool, that's good. But I can turn on this live reload extension, which is just available inside Chrome. It communicates with the system application back here. And now any changes that I make are, in fact, live. So I make a change. I just hit save. I don't have to go over and hit refresh. That's good. So I'll actually just say that that sounds pretty good. And now I'll go down here and add a little bit more functionality. Let's see. I'll do a CSS transition that I want to see. 0.4 pics, 0.4 seconds. I'll apply that to all things. And then add a hover state to it. I think this time we'll do a transform. Nice, OK. So I just hit saved. I come over here with my mouse, and nice. This is definitely an improvement, and I will be committing this to the repo right now. Or not. But that's cool. But I'm getting my immediate feedback, and I'm getting my Sass immediately recompiled on the fly, and then my CSS is being served back to the browser. Without even the browser refreshing, I can change the page, my scroll position is maintained, and just the style sheet is being swapped in, which is really nice. All right. So I'm going to show a little bit of the browser dev tools inside Chrome. Some features that help, especially with building applications that you may not be aware of. The first is source URL. And this is a feature that's been in the browser for quite a while. This is a little demo set up by Ryan Seddon. And so we have a little bit of CoffeeScript right here in the middle. I'm going to make a small little edit to this CoffeeScript first. Nice, OK, cool. Now I'll bring up the Chrome DevTools. And it's pretty good. Nice. Now, normally, I can take this CoffeeScript, I can run it through coffeescript.js, compile it into its JavaScript form, and if I run it, it goes through eval. And normally, when you take text and run it through eval, it evaluates, but it just kind of disappears into thin air. Source URL is a way to basically treat that as a file. So if you see down at the bottom, I'm adding googleo.js, and I hit compile. Now you see it over here in the Chrome DevTools. And so if we look, we have what I just added in the CoffeeScript, now compiled to JavaScript. And at the side over here is the source URL. So this little line is indicating, hey, DevTools, I got this text. I threw it into eval, but can you treat it as a file? Thanks very much. That would be great. So this is really nice, too. So not only is it a file, but I get all the features that I would expect. So let's say breakpoints. First, I'll just make sure that my cube function is working all nicely. Yes, good. Cube of 5 is 125. Hit a breakpoint. Cube of 5, we break. I can't actually check the value of x right now. We're looking good. Yes, sure. We'll continue. Or I can do a live edit. And just immediately change to this file on the fly. We'll return 2 from square. So now when we ask for our cube, it should be 5 times 2. Cool, yeah. And we get our result, which is 10. So I'm getting live edit and breakpoints on some JavaScript, which was compiled down from CoffeeScript, all on the fly, showing up as real files. So that's pretty nice. Ember actually uses source URL to great effect to Ember, the JavaScript library, to emulate modules, which is really, really cool. Another feature I want to show real quick is source maps. And so if I bring back open my local HTML5 please and view the source, now down at the bottom is my original sources for the project. Looks like we had some script tags, pulling in a few libraries, and then this script.js that I was editing in before. But what really gets served to the browser is script.min.js, which is just a minified. My Chrome extension is prettifying this for me, but I really want you to see that it's minified. OK, cool. Thank you, Chrome extension. All right, so the browser is actually receiving the minified source, of course. But down at the very bottom of it is a little indication, similar to what we saw with source URL, only this time it's source mapping URL. And this points over to a map file. And this map file does basically takes the identifiers in this compiled source and maps it back to my original sources and says, these are the files. And so what I can get as a result, I open up my DevTools, and instead of seeing script.min.js, I see my original sources all in here. And the cool thing is that the same thing works over here. Here's my nice edits that I made. I can apply breakpoints and click on any. And now we're actually broken in my original source, even though the browser is interpreting the minified version. So this is great for an environment like production, where you're serving out the compiled sources, but you want to be able to debug your original things that you typed out. All right, cool. Lastly, if you noticed, this might look a little different to you. First of all, the DevTools are on the right-hand side. If you open up the settings panel, which is down here in the bottom right, we have a few things in there. So dock to write just moves it over there. I really like it in dock to write mode. But inside sources, we have, of course, our step debugging on the right-hand side, and I can just kind of get that out of the way. Our files over here, and I can get that out of the way and view my scripts in their full glory. I can also jump to different scripts. Instead of using this menu, I can just hit Command-O and see all those scripts that are available. Just kind of get completion there. Or Command-Shift-O and see all the functions that are defined in this file. And now I'll just find, yes, the sort function is what I'm looking for. I can jump immediately to that definition. So a lot of nice things to make dealing with a large JavaScript code base a bit easier inside the DevTools now. All right. Now I want to bring up testing for a moment. And this right here is actually a picture from a series that we have up in the bathrooms at the Googleplex in Mountain View, California. The series is called Testing on the Toilet. And so each week there's a new sheet that gives you some good tips for writing tests against your software. Good reading material, too. But it's important to write unit tests. And so I have a few ideas here. First is that you should author your test in whatever you feel most comfortable in. So these days, for JavaScript, it would probably be Jasmine, QUnit, or Mocha. They all have kind of different assertion styles, and find whichever you like and you feel comfortable writing those assertions in. Build up a large test suite, and then it feels so nice as a security blanket when you're doing refactoring. The other is you can execute these tests that you've written in a variety of different sessions. So like settings. The first one is, of course, in the browser. So this is the HTML5 test suite running inside QUnit, inside the browser. Pretty common. You can also run the same tests inside a headless browser on demand on the command line. So I'll show that right now. I'll use grunt, which is a node-based command line tool, and type grunt QUnit. So this is actually going to fire up Phantom.js, which is a headless WebKit instance, toss in those QUnit test suite, and then check that those indeed 5 assertions did pass. So I'm able to run the exact same tests just without even leaving my command line here. I can also run tests after I push it up to version control and let something like a continuous integration server test these things. So we do this on the Modernizer project. So this is Travis. Every time we put up a new commit onto GitHub, Travis comes in, pulls down the latest, and actually does a similar thing. It takes our QUnit tests, throws it into Phantom.js, and then we're looking good. It tells us if we're indeed passing, or we had a little bit where I made some commits and broke some things. We fixed that. It's good. Another cool one, this is really nice, again from Ryan Seddon. He wrote a tool where we can take tests, not only get results on the command line, but be able to test browsers in the cloud. So I'm going to take the same test suite that's in QUnit and toss it to Bunyip, and Bunyip will then take that and call up Browser Stack, which has a lot of browsers in the cloud and also mobile emulators. Now I'm not going to wait for this to finish, but it just called up some iOS emulators, and it can check my test suite against those and get the results back. So this is really nice. I can write my tests, be able to execute them in a number of different devices and browsers on the fly without ever leaving right here. All right, when you have a build system, you wrote all this stuff, you need to get it out for production. There's a lot of things that you need to do with a pretty hefty web app. And tackling all these on your own every time you make changes is not going to work out so well, so you're going to need some help. And I'm going to get into a little bit of this later. But after you deploy, one of the things that I think that we often forget is keeping track of your errors that clients have. So this is a screenshot from Errorception, and it's showing my report from a web app that I somewhat hastily put up with some friends, and telling me that I actually have a few people are hitting some JavaScript errors in IE9 and Chrome, and I didn't hit any of these errors, and none of the other developers did, but real users in the field are hitting these, so I can get these reports and make sure that I can fix all these for everyone. Okay, so that was a lot of stuff, and sorry, but so I was showing a lot of things. It was kind of like this is here, and the feeling that I got was that this was kind of like, there was a lot of tools, and they were all useful, but they kind of didn't have this smooth integration. So me and some people on my team thought about this, and we thought maybe there's something that we could do to kind of make this workflow a bit more smooth. And so I'm going to talk to you today about a project that we're going to show off called Yeoman. So the ideas behind Yeoman is that we think you should be able to go from your idea to a rough prototype in 10 minutes. And I say rough, and I mean like a prototype that you're actually going to continue developing. Like you're using all the tools inside that prototype that you would normally use in a web app, and you're going to keep going from that. We also want to make sure that we can reduce friction for the things that you should be doing, such as testing. And now you probably heard that you should not repeat yourself when you're coding. Same things applies to your tools. You shouldn't have to you shouldn't have to run build.sh every single time you change a file. So these things should be automatic. So what Yeoman is it's an open source set of tools, frameworks, libraries that accelerate building good web apps. So it has some things in it. So authoring abstractions, linting, testing, build tools, these things that I've been talking about. And we've been focusing on providing nice, smooth developer ergonomics so that it feels good to use. So there's a few things inside of it. These names you should be familiar with. Compass, Sass, CoffeeScript, module support by way of AMD and ECMAScript 6. I'll get to that in a minute. Twitter Bootstrap, stripped HTML5 boilerplate, some testing things, Jasmine, Phantom.js, image compression. All right. So I'm going to do a demo, and I'm actually going to skip the first step. The first step is a little shell script that gets your developer environment all set and going get you installed with Node and NPM and Homebrew, get a few of the dependencies out of the way that you're going to want, because sometimes I'll end up switching to a new machine, and getting your own developer environment going takes a while. So we want to make sure that you could get rid of that and all set in a few minutes. All right. So I am going to go to temp. Nice. All right, we're going to kick off a new project. So a lot of what we have in Yeoman is accessible on the command line. And so I can just type Yeoman command. And we have a few things available in here. We have init build server test and some other stuff I'm going to get to later. So what we're going to do here is we're going to start a new project. I'll name this project IOApp. And inside IOApp, we're going to type Yeoman init. Cool. So we're starting off a new project. Things are good. It's going to ask us a few questions. It's the name of the project, description. It's going to pull a little bit of Git metadata from my Git config. So some of these defaults probably will make sense for me. And that's good. Now it's going to take all this and create a nice little package.json file, which I might want. And now there's a few things it's going to ask me if I want. Do I want Twitter Bootstrap? Yeah. Required JS? I'll pull that in for now. And experimental support for ECMAScript 6 modules. Let's do it. All right, I say yes. We got a bunch of files written, and we're good. Just to show kind of what this created, I'm going to take a tree and pipe it through to less. So let's see. We got a good deal of Bootstrap here. And then Bootstrap. A little bit of HTML5 boilerplate going on here, some more Bootstrap, Jasmine going on down here. Cool. Now, now, next thing, I'm just going to open this up inside my text editor. And so we have here a little stripped version of HTML5 boilerplate, and I'll add in some text. And I'm actually just going to use a little bit of Zen coding to save some time. Nice. Hello, IO. Yeoman in action. Now, we have a server built into Yeoman. And the cool thing here is that we're actually taking, because when you run a server, you actually want to be able to watch your changes too. So you set up a server, it immediately actually opens up that result inside the browser as well, and you're off. So now I'm going to open up my style sheet. All right, we have in here, we're going to pull in Twitter Bootstrap, and I'll bring that guy down here. And now watch as I hit save on this file. Hit save, our watch task, notice that it immediately changes, and then we run it through Compass, we hit the reload task, and you saw that it changes up here. So I'm now able to add whatever I want inside my text editor and get immediate results down at the bottom, or in my browser. So do a little bit of styles here, save. Looks pretty good. Add a little bit of color over here. Save. Nice. Cool. So I'm able to just go run all of this immediately through through Compass, compile it down to my resulting CSS, and then get the result immediately showing over here. The cool thing is that we're actually not even using any sort of Chrome extension to get the library load functionality inside the view in my browser. Now, this is cool. And I wanted to bring up testing, because I mentioned that before. We can just go over to /test, and we have our Jasmine test suite. All green, looking good. We see it in the browser. That's good. Like I said before, I think it's really nice to be able to have this available at the command line too. So we'll type in Yeoman test. We're going to take that Jasmine suite and throw it into Phantom.js and get our same passing results. Cool. I should mention here that we're using Grunt, again, to use a lot of this system-level functionality. It's a great project for this sort of thing, and we're leaning heavily on it. All right, cool. Now, let's move over to another project. I'll bring up this application, and we'll kick it off right now. Bring this up. Nice. All right. So this should look pretty familiar to you. This is your standard to-do app. A large portion of this came from the To-Do MVC project, where you can see a basic to-do app built in a number of different frameworks and libraries. So let's see, go to I/O, do a talk. Nice, cool. So we got this basic functionality, that's good. I want to show a little bit of how this was built. So right inside here, we view source, and we're pulling in require.js. And the main module that we're pulling in is main. And so I'm actually going to take a quick detour and talk about modules. All right. So modules, the quick elevator pitch on modules is that the key to building a large web app is to not construct a large web app, is to break it up into small libraries and small parts. Writing code into small files feels good, and we can do that when we use modules. With structured modules, we can also define what our dependencies are. And when we do this, we're actually able to just define our dependencies a single time. So let's say we're not using modules. So you'd probably have your HTML file. You'd have a bunch of script tags in the order that they need to be in. And then you have your build system, which is going to concatenate all your files. And you have to specify your order and your dependencies over there as well. Modules, we can just define that structure just in one place. Another advantage is that as you develop, you might stop using code. And in modules, code you stop using just gets stripped out when it goes out to build. So there's a few different ways to write modules, and I'm going to show two of them here. The first is AMD modules. So these are asynchronous modules that have dependency resolution, help you to not write global variables. And it has a very rich plugin ecosystem that I'm going to show, as well as smart build optimization. So this is an example of, let's say, a to-do controller. And we're going to pull in this file and bring it into our app as a to-do view. And then our to-do controller is going to return an object that includes some stuff and then a render method. All right, cool. Now on to the next module. This is ES6 modules, ECMAScript 6, also ECMAScript Harmony. Now, this is actually coming from ECMAScript committee, TC39, who thought that people are kind of doing this in the JavaScript world. Let's find a way to make this actually happen in the language itself. So offering a native solution. It has a flexible syntax beyond what we have just down here. So what we have is we're pulling in a module called to-do-view from this file, kind of importing it into this file. We have some functionality, and then we can export whatever we want. So in this case, we're going to export a function called render, where we do some stuff. Now I should point out I am saying ES6. There's a little bit of conversation happening right now about if this is going to make it into ECMAScript version 6 or the next version after that. So we'll see how that goes. But we wanted to experiment with this and see if Yeoman could give us an ability to try out this style. So back to the code. I said that this was using require.js. So I'm going to open up our source of this app, and I'll open up main.js. So this is the module it's pulling in, and it looks like we're initializing an app right after we pull in the task app module. And we have a little CoffeeScript prefilter on this. So it looks like, skip. All right, cool. So this is indeed AMD, but it is, of course, CoffeeScript. You can see at the top we're pulling in a few other modules into this file. And then we have our application set up where we're defining our structure of our to-dos. Now, one of these modules that we're pulling in is this fun module, nice. And we're pulling it in with an HM prefilter. Stands for harmony. So I'm going to go over to that real quick. Fun. All right, so this here is an ECMAScript harmony module. We are pulling in a few things into it. So we're pulling in speech from this guy over here. And this is actually the eSpeak speech synthesizer client. The cool thing about this speech synthesizer is that it's actually written in C++, but it was run through Emscripten, which is a research project by Mozilla that can port C++ into JavaScript. And so now we're taking that and we're exposing it through ECMAScript Harmony modules and bringing that out. So we pull in this module, and we also got this guy going on here. And down here, we're going to use this speech module at the bottom and pull out the speak method. Cool. Coming back into our app, you can see down here, when we create a new item, I'm going to uncomment out this guy and comment out this guy. Nice. Come back here and refresh the page. Good. And now let's try this out.
Remember to ace the demo.
Yeah, nice, cool. So, nailed it. Awesome. All right, so the cool thing here is that we have a C++ library that was ported into JavaScript via Emscripten, exposed via ECMAScript 6 module into our CoffeeScript application, compiled down into ECMAScript 5 JavaScript, and now we got a Nyan cat. So I think we're in a good place. Cool. All right. One of the things that we wanted to do with Yeoman is find out how we can iterate on it in a way that kind of was based on how people are using it. So we have a thing in there that can report exactly anonymous metrics around what are the commands that are typed in, so any kind of Yeoman commands. And this way, we can get a better idea on how people are using it so they can make good changes and really make sure that the tool fits its users. Another thing that it can do is answer questions like, what's the popularity difference between Backbone and Ember, or what's the adoption rate of ES6 modules? So I think this is really cool. And we also want to make sure that all this data is accessible to anyone that wants to see it. I wanted to take a moment just to talk about package management. So I don't know about you guys, but if I have to update like a library that I depend on somewhere, the first thing that happens is someone probably tells me, hey, that jQuery, it's 1.5, they're up to 1.8 alpha, you should probably update. I'm like, oh, okay. So I'll go to the site, I'll find the download button, and then I'll download that to my downloads, and then I'll move that into the app folder, and then I'll like fix the script tag because it's a new version file and fix that. And that's not great. So why do we need package management for client-side JavaScript? Because what I just described is not fun. And then more like at ecosystem level, common code gets duplicated. Across a good-sized app, you probably have code to bind a function to a scope like 4 times. Another thing that happens is that libraries get fragmented. This is why we have things like the jQuery empire and then the YUI and Dojo enclosure areas where things are not really interoperable, and we have fragmented communities and libraries. So with package management, we can have something like a longer dependency chain. A good example of this is the Chaplin project, which helps building applications in Backbone. Chaplin depends on Backbone and some other libraries which depend on jQuery and underscore. It becomes really easy. Better package management, we can define the dependency tree, which informs a build system to be really smart about building that out for a very optimized output for production. And then as a library author, it's really nice for your users to both consume your library as a regular old install and then also as a dependency of something else. So how about instead of all those steps, we just have something like Yeoman install Backbone, and we have to update it. Instead of all these steps, Yeoman very casually, hey man, JavaScript library is out of date. got to update your backbone. It's the new thing. You're like, cool, cool, I got it. Yeoman, update backbone. So I'm going to show you a quick look at Bower. So Bower is a package manager. It's being built by Jacob Thornton, who is one of the devs behind Twitter Bootstrap, and Alex McCaw behind the Spine MVC library. And what we did is we basically took Bower and wrapped it right inside of Yeoman so that we can just access it through the same interface. So we're over here in the IO app, and we'll do Yeoman install backbone. So right now what it's doing is Yeoman's talking to Bower. Bower is going to go and talk to the registry, say, hey, I need backbone. Cool. I just got the backbone package. My dependencies are underscore and jQuery. Please get those. OK, cool, got those. And now we've installed into our app, into the JS browser modules, backbone, jQuery, and underscore. And so if I go into JS browser modules, we have all of our files right there. So I'm saving a lot of time not going and getting all these things and keeping them up to date. I'm able to manage my dependencies for my app right here on the command line, which is really nice. So this is where things are going with that. So in summary for Yeoman, we can start out new projects really easily. We get a fast iterative loop when we're doing development, understanding preprocessors and other languages like Sass and CoffeeScript, module systems like AMD and ES6. I didn't show how we can run our files against JS hint or even the build script, which is pretty robust. It's built actually on the original build script for the HTML5 boilerplate. But we've done a lot of research into image optimization and found the most effective lossless image compression we can do. So Yeoman is available in a developer preview. If you go to yeoman.io, you can sign up and get notified when it's totally ready. We're just doing a little bit of buckling to make sure that we're looking good. We also want to make sure that our package manager has enough packages so that when you want to start an app and add things, everything is there for you as you want it. So we're letting in a few people just to kind of kick the tires, and we'll have it out available for everyone publicly soon. All right, so in summary, tools are your friends. They're good. They increase your productivity, lower your stress, help you out when you use them in a workflow that works really well for you. We're working on Yeoman to help make it easier to consume these smart tooling choices and help you build compelling web apps. And thank you very much. If you have any questions, go ahead and step up to the mics in the aisles, and that would be rad.
Thanks, Paul.
You're welcome.
So, Paul,
Sir.
I saw Jasmine. Is
Yes.
there going to be other testing, like plugins or?
So since we are built on Grunt, if you're familiar with that, swapping it out for a different testing suite is as easy as editing the Grunt file. So it's not too bad, but we've made choices that we wanted to have some smart defaults in there. And so we went with Jasmine because we really like its style. So it is configurable, but we wanted to have something that gets you off and going from the start.
Awesome.
Cool.
And can I get an invite?
Yeah. You talk to me.
So, when after you installed Yeoman and you were configuring the app and you were making changes and the changes were loading in the browser, was that live reload or was that something in Yeoman?
So we're actually leveraging the JavaScript shim that the live reload project used, and we're injecting that into the page. And so we're using a portion of live reload, but it's really just JavaScript that's making that happen.
Okay, so in short, one doesn't have to have live reload to have that
Right.
feature.
That feature comes through Yeoman,
Cool.
so you don't even have to have anything else installed yet.
Thanks.
Yeah.
So you showed us the testing and the development side. I'm guessing part of the build process that you didn't have time to show us was building and for deployment. Would that also include being able to use the Clojure compiler to have source mapping?
Yeah. Right now, our build step goes through Uglify, but we're looking at a nice way to run it through a Clojure compiler because I like source maps just as much as you do. And so there's a few issues and discussions open to get source mapping into Uglify, into CoffeeScript. Neither of them have landed yet, so we're waiting for that. But in the meantime, yeah, I'd really love to find a nice way to get source maps into a Clojure compiler.
Right, and there was an issue around having multiple source maps and trying to read from each other. I'll catch you at the Code Lab afterwards.
Sure, yeah. Sounds good. Sir?
Hi. What kind of requirements do I need for my server when I want to deploy this Yeoman created app?
No specific requirement. It's completely up to you. So it's basically, we don't make any requirements as far as your backend. It stays completely client-side only, whereas another solution might say that this is your database on the back end and we're going to serve it up via Nginx or something like that. That is completely up to you.
I see. Okay.
Yeah. Yes, sir. One more.
This one's for Louis. So how much do you know about like the Bower package manager? How hard is it going to be to get a package into it? I noticed that it looked like it was cloning. So if you push that back up to GitHub, like, is there weird issues?
Well, I can answer the first part at least. So it was previously called Nest, and I'm accessing it this way. And registering a new package is as easy as that. Bower, register, the name, and the URL of the Git repo. It's very, very easy. And there's a package.json file that has some metadata available for the package. There's no strict dependency on GitHub, but there is a strict dependency on Git. And clone each package, find out its dependencies. And we're finding ways the team is finding ways to optimize that. And say, for instance, grab the zip download if it's a GitHub situation instead of cloning the entire repo, finding out how to make that really nice. Cool. All right. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.